This time in the Prop Master, well, we've got part 2 of the behind the scenes Boba Fett Jetpack prototype. Yeah, that's all I got. It's been a couple of weeks since I actually made this back piece here. And what I've been doing for those 2 weeks is basically trying to figure out how to make this sort of top piece for the two tanks that go on the sides. They're basically two different parts. There's this bottom part that comes up at one angle, and then there's a top cap part that is a much shallower angle. And to get this bottom angle, in the information that I got on the dented helmet, it says that it is made from a water bottle. So I took that approach. I went online so that I could see like every conceivable water bottle shape. And I found a couple. Most of the 1 liter bottle size, 1 liter size bottles, I should say, are about 3 inches across. So that's the size I was looking at. And I found a couple, or I found one that looked like was the right shape. Ended up having to buy a case of it. And it's actually too rounded at the shoulders and a little too high an angle here. So found another one that had much sharper sides. Ended up having to buy another case of that, had it delivered. And it's got the sharper corner at the shoulder, but is an even higher angle. So it didn't work either. So I kind of gave up on that. And even before that, I had tried PVC, cutting this piece down. It'll fit in there nicely, but it's too shallow an angle and it's too small to get this height. It just doesn't work out very well. So that didn't work. I found a nice app online that if you put in your dimensions, like the diameter here and the diameter at the top of the flat cone and the height between the difference between the two, it'll give you the shape that you can cut out to make that, which is great and worked amazingly with paper. But when I tried to do it in ABS plastic or Sintra, neither one of them worked particularly well. The problem is trying to glue the ends together. Despite the fact that I used PVC glue and ABS glue, neither one of them would be strong enough to hold that in a way that I could get a gentle curve, the right curve. I even made a mold out of some MDF wood so that I could try to mold this, and it still didn't work. And then lo and behold, I just went to the grocery store to where they had lots of different water bottles and started looking so I could just go through every one of them. And I found this Body Armor Sports Water, or Sport Water. The 1 liter size is just about perfect. It has the sharp edge on the shoulder. It has a shallow, straight-sided angle at the top. And that is exactly, and it's exactly 3 inches across. It'll fit snugly on top of this. It works perfectly. If you can't find Body Armor where you are and you can't find it online, I would do like I did and just go to the store. Most water bottle places or most bottled water places don't make their own bottles, so they're going to buy the bottles that they've got. So you can probably find this exact bottle with a different brand on it if you can't find Body Armor. So just go to your store and try to find something that fits those descriptions. And that's how I got this piece. So then I had to get this rounded piece, and I've been trying to mold it out of ABS plastic. Unfortunately, every time I heat up my ABS plastic, it goes from a circle into an oval. I'm not sure why that is. and I can't get it to really mold properly. I say mold, it's really I'm just heating it up and trying to gently press it so that it sags in the middle. Actually, originally I tried some Lego pieces, and unfortunately they're just a little bit too shallow. This one's probably a more appropriate size. It's just a little bit too shallow. It's not deep enough. So I gave up on the ABS plastic because it kept distorting. I got some Sintra, but the thickness of the Sintra makes it pucker every time I try to do it. In the dented helmet info that I have, it says this piece is originally made from a space shuttle model. It's a little piece from a model kit, the 1/72nd scale space shuttle, the one that comes with the space lab, and it's the ends of the space lab, which I have right here, and it is perfectly the right size. It's just right. The problem is this is one little piece that comes, well, you actually get two ends that are slightly different, but they'll both work. But it's a relatively expensive model. If you find one of the old ones, you'll have to get it on eBay, and who knows how much you'll have to pay for it. Luckily, there was an anniversary edition that came out, but even then, it's like $40. So I didn't want to just tell everybody go out and buy a $40 model just for this one little piece. And it was really driving me crazy. And then I was throwing out some of these body armor bottles after I'd cut the tops off, and I realized the bottom is the exact right shape. And it's got these little ribs, which are not dissimilar to this piece actually. So you cut the bottom out of this and it finishes it up. So you can do this whole thing with just the body armor bottles. So that actually was a huge relief. Got this on here, and now we can kind of go on. I'll need to go ahead and make another one for the other tube. Oh, and from where remember when we moved this or made this 2 inches taller? Well, the pipe that I had gotten originally was, I got one piece that was 2 feet long and one that was 1 foot long, and that's not long enough for here, so I had to kind of join two pieces together to get my 14 inches for this, which is the right size, 14 inches. But I think we're all caught up now, and we can go ahead and get back to trying to mock this up, or make a prototype. So the first thing we need to do is measure from the center of the whole thing to the center of this tank, which I've already marked. And that's 6 1/4 inches, almost 16 centimeters. Not that y'all need to know that right now. Yeah, 6 1/4 inches. That's going to tell me where the center of this is going to be on here. I should say that's going to tell me where the center of that tube is going to be. I think I've got a little section of pipe here. Okay, so we've got a certain amount of space here in the front and much more in the back. So think what we'll do is, from the pictures I've seen, this piece sits not on this flat section, but it sits on this the section that drops here. But I also want it to be level. I don't want it to pitch, you know, further back in the back here. So I'll make my cut in the front and I'll measure for the same cut in the back. This is going to be harder than I was thinking because I've got an angle here. I can't just make that my... That will not be the right shape. Kind of guessing at that just from aiming down the pipe that that's where my one end will be. It looks like basically 1 inch. Kind of ridiculous, but I think the easiest thing to do to get the perfect shape is to cut this angle into this pipe. This is definitely, I'm sure there is an easier way to do this, but at the moment that's what I can think of. It's like about 30 degrees. So I'm going to go cut a 30-degree angle into this and go from there. Okay, so here's this piece. I'm sure there's a much easier way to do this, but by the time I figured it out, let's just say that you know, this took a lot less time than that. I'm using those 1-inch guess lines as sort of a way to center this up. I know they're not going to be right, but if I get them the right, you know, the same equal amount wrong, that'll give me the right spot. They weren't wrong by much. Okay, and now I'm going to measure the distance from here to there in the middle so I can put the same measurement back here. Looks like 7/16 of an inch. Looks like it was a 1/16 off on these lines. Should be 1 1/16. Well, part of me wants to make it tighter than that, just to make sure this fits right. This whole back has bowed in this direction, which is why I'm having a hard time getting my lines drawn straight. It's not really as deep as I was expecting, but you got to go with your measurements as opposed to what you think. I think in the actual piece, this is probably too wide, because this should probably end about here and then come up at an angle. But that's why we're doing this. To make this perfect, I'd have to cut this at that same angle. So I'll do sort of an attempt at an angle. It probably won't be precise, but I'm going to lose a lot of the structure to this when I cut this out, but I'll gain it back once I hot glue that piece in. The warp in this is being troublesome. Looks pretty good. Making the bottom basically flush there. Part of me wants it to be higher like that, but the drawing and the images that I have definitely show that this line hits this in the middle, not down here, so I think we'll stick with what we've got. Maybe this will help take out that warp. I need to plug in the hot glue gun. So I'm gonna plug that in and let it warm up, and we'll be back. Okay, hot glue gun's hot, and while I was waiting for this to heat up, I went ahead and drew the new lines over here. I didn't draw the end parts, but that's okay. So I'm gonna hold this down firmly and make a mess. It's about time for a new hot glue gun, I'm afraid. This one's got so much hot glue on it that it's kind of a mess. Maybe it's just time to clean the hot glue gun. Can't even reach the glue in there. But once I'm reasonably certain that that's stuck, now I can push the top down and maybe take out some of that warp that's in here. I am making a mess. Back here, I didn't get much glue on at all, so I don't know if you can see this at all, but you know, I probably should have put some hot glue down in the middle before I set this in place. That would probably have given a stronger hold. But this is just a prototype. One down, one to go. I'm going to let that totally cool so that it's stronger and won't necessarily fall apart so easy. So when that's cool, we'll do the next one. Number 2. Okay, that worries me because these are not in the same place. Oh, also that broke loose. That's not good. That looks the same, but this does not look the same. And that's why you do half of a layout and then mirror it. That's the same now. Well, before we can do that, we've got to actually assemble that piece. So I don't want to be trying to put this together on the piece that's already there, so let's do that. Change of plan. To the bandsaw. That's a little bit looser, but it'll still work. Also didn't cut this quite as far down as I did the other one, so I'll keep that in mind for the real thing. I might need to glue that. The other one I didn't glue. This one I think I'm going to go ahead and hit with some super glue. Just cleaning off the fuzz left with the bandsaw. Kind of see a little ring that runs around here. It's definitely there, but you can only see it with the light a certain way, so I just wanted to highlight that. And now I can cut it out. Slightly too big is better than slightly too small. Okay. Looks pretty good. There's a good chance it's going to be kind of not perfectly circular at the top, so we kind of like spot weld this. Let me get the zip kicker again. Great. Glued it to my finger. Let's try again. I will admit last time I was able to pull this off, do this, and then stick it back on. But I can't do that now because it's glued on. The good news is this one's much more circular. Yeah, definitely should have not glued this down yet, because it'd be really helpful to get inside there to move this around to fit perfectly. So that's a note that I'll have to remember. Maybe I'll tape this down when I do it for real instead of gluing it if it's loose. That way it'll still be structurally supported so I can cut this flat, but then I can take it off again. Okay. And that's solid. It's amazing how strong that becomes. Now I'm going to take a Dremel tool and I'm going to, some of these spots that are kind of have a ton of glue up here, I'm going to file those down. Smoother the better. I had to unplug this to plug the bandsaw in, so apparently it's not heated up yet. Let's see if it's hot enough now. It's not coming out very fast. And I'm not paying attention to the way the top's lining up here, but you know, in the real one I will. This just means I'm just going to put a whole lot of hot glue in here. Okay, it's one step closer. Let's start working on this center section here, which really starts out with moving this out of the way. So I think what I need is some pieces that are 4 inches by 2 inches. I need about 4 of them. You know what, I think I'll go cut this on the bandsaw. See how that works. Okay, not the cleanest of cuts, but everything's uniform and straight, so that's really all I need. Then I'm going to take some of this gaffer tape and see if I can't tape up these things on the edges. Normally I would just put double stick tape or something down, but I'm afraid with the foam core it would just rip the paper apart. The main thing is that I want to cut all of these exactly the same with a curve, and so I'm going to do it all at once. Okay. Now I need this section. This is 13 inches, and I think that's already measured this, and that's what I need. I'm getting distracted here, but no. Oh yeah, it goes to the top of this. So yeah, 13 inches. Wasn't really necessary for what I'm doing, but I want this to be, I might actually want this to be 2 different pieces, because this needs to essentially lay flat on there. So I think I will. I'll go all the way to the bottom of this. Here, if I do it this way, you can actually see what I'm doing. I think, yeah, I can line up on the inside and make sure everything is centered. Okay. So these are the only parts that I really need. And I'm back to the bandsaw. Here we have the pieces, and I can start gluing them together. I'm going to do these in 2s. Actually, you know what? Super glue is probably a better choice for this. Although the hot glue does give me the opportunity to make sure everything is perfectly aligned. Try super glue on this one just to see which one's better. Yeah, actually I think hot glue is probably working the better. the two. I could spray the zip kicker on one and the super glue on the other, but then I won't be able to adjust them to make sure they're perfectly lined up. So back to the hot glue. That'll work. These are 4 inches, or these were 4 inches apart when I cut them out. So if I put a line 2 inches on either side of this, that'll tell me the location of each of these ribs. These are now on the way from my ruler, so let me get one of my 4-inch sections real quick. Okay, so if I take this, which is actually slightly less than 4, so I'm glad I'm using this and not the ruler. That's what I get for not measuring and using the ruler that's on the saw. And other than not getting it too high up to here where it interferes with the cross pieces, I don't really have a particular position lined up for these. Now I can just line these up against the back line. And the idea behind making these 4 inches across instead of 4.5 inches is that they should fit underneath the pipe without sticking out, so it shouldn't interfere with anything. So now this pipe should just fit in place. There we go. Flush with the bottom. It's not quite touching, but probably some hot glue in there would seal that up. But if it's not touching real well, then maybe I should go ahead and put some glue on each side of these pieces, because it's possible that these are going to be what's holding everything on. Smart thing that I guess would be to put some pieces that ran across here, but no, that would require me to, well, would it? Let me just cut some short pieces to stick on the tops and bottoms of these pieces real quick. very tall. I'm basically just making some gussets. I should have measured that. Because everything's not square, I need to actually custom make each one of these gussets, which is a bit of a pain. Make this a little bit shorter. Okay, so that's just a little added stability. Honestly, if these had been a 1/16 of an inch further apart, this would have probably fit flush across the bottom and it wouldn't have been necessary, but you know, this will just make sure it doesn't fall off while we're working on it. I want to do this as quickly as I can so that the glue doesn't cool off before I put this down. Which at this point is looking unlikely. That looks pretty good. And that fits inside this, so that works. Okay. I think that's... All right, now we just need to put the piece that goes across here. Yeah, I think that's the next step. Okay, so the first thing I need to do, I think, is come up the sides of the two tanks. I've got a couple of 1/8 inch strips of foam core. I'm going to make an assumption here. I I don't have any good pictures. I'll tell you what I would not give for an actual for the actual prop, just to take some measurements from. I'm gonna go ahead and make this 12.5 inches. What I don't know is what shape this piece is. That'll fit in there. Let's see. So it looks like 3/4 of an inch up. Man, this new glue that I've got is clearly a much higher temperature glue. I shouldn't do that because I'm going to end up gluing onto that. You know, looking at this, it might not be quite tall enough. Maybe 1.5 inches would have been a better choice. Yeah, that's probably a better height. That way when the next piece comes on, it can actually hit that. That means it is a 1/4 inch piece. Oh, I was like, where's the piece? almost big enough. But so what I'm doing here is I'm basically extending these pieces another inch forward. That doesn't look right either. Okay, I'm with you now. So yeah, that's the right width. So I was confused. I was thinking that the cross piece went above this, but it doesn't. This goes up into the cross piece, so it actually goes below that. So this is the right length. This would be easier if I didn't have this piece in the way constantly. It's always something. Something doesn't seem right. No, I guess it is right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at my photos again to see if does this stair step down or does it curve down? I was thinking it's stair stepped, but there's not a lot of room to stair step here, to be totally honest. Find the middle of this. What does this show? Yeah, this definitely shows more space. I don't know if you can see this, but if I stair step, it's going to be something like that, which leads me to believe that maybe it needs to be just a curve. But I'm going to go take a look at the photos real quick and see what I can find. Okay, this is what I've come up with. I hope you can see this. This is still just a guesstimate, but you know, it's based on the information that I have, which is you know, screenshots and things like that. Primarily, I got this from the scene in Return of the Jedi where Boba Fett is taking a shot at Luke with his left Vambrace blaster. It's the only shot I can find that has anything remotely like a clear shot of this piece, and from what I can tell, it looks something like that. This is based on that and based on the measurements that I have here, so this is what we're going to go with. If I find anything that's better, then you know, we can adjust, but from here on out, unless I do find something else, this is what we're going with. So I guess I'm gonna go ahead and cut this out, and because of this curve, I'm probably gonna use the bandsaw. Okay, so I cut it out on the bandsaw, and then I flipped it over and marked it out and cut out the left side as well. And it won't surprise you to know that they're not the same. This one's gonna actually end up shorter, which is, you know, once again, why you do, you know, the templates for half and then you flip it over and do the other half. That way they're actually the same. So hopefully these will fit. That looks good. Probably need to make some measurements here. Okay, this is precisely, maybe I should go to centimeters here, or millimeters. 331 centimeters. That's, I got kind of a jagged edge there. It makes it kind of hard to figure it out. Well, this is precisely 13 and 1/16 of an inch. So 13 inches and a 16th. Just want to measure that on this side so I know that it'll be straight across. Okay, now let's go ahead and put these on. Okay, and you probably have noticed the mistake that I made, which was that I needed to stack up like 5 layers of this to get the right width through here. And I forgot to do that, so that's something I'll have to do next, I guess. Where is the other hot glue stick? Okay, found it. I should have put it on that end as well, but I didn't. I totally missed. This new glue is hotter and much stringier. This looks wrong. Maybe it's just a weird angle for me, but dried, or cooled, I should say. Well, I measured that carefully, but to me it looks like it's higher and then dives down, but that may just be an optical illusion. So the battery on my camera, or should I say phone, died, and I didn't want to stop working, so put my phone in the charger, and while I was doing that, while it was charging up, I went ahead and basically just repeated this process 4 more times. So now we have the full 1-inch thickness here. Oh, also the problem I was having here was that for some reason I put the mark, I was thinking that that was where the bottom of the foam core went, not the top. So I made some new marks and I made a mess, but everything's basically where it's supposed to be. I think the thing to do now is let's go ahead and put the top on this centerpiece right here. And that is with this. This is a 3-inch coupler, a small piece of 3-inch PVC pipe, which I cannot seem to remove now without a hammer. Hold on. Okay, so a section of 3-inch PVC pipe, a section or a 3-inch PVC coupler, and a 3-inch to 1.5-inch reduction piece. And that gives you a 4-inch diameter piece that after we cut it, I'm pretty sure will slide into this. Measured this part, and this is from here to here is 3 3/8 of an inch. So let me go cut that and I'll be right back. Okay, so here's this piece. And will this now fit inside there? Not quite, it's gonna need a little help. This is the same size and I know that this will fit in. So let's just round this sharp edge off and I think that'll probably do it. Now you could round this off with whatever, power tools, but this file's handy, so I'm going to try it first. I just realized something dumb. I cut this off at the right height to fit perfectly on here, and I need it to sink inside ever so slightly. So let me see if I can find another 3-inch coupler for this, and that was kind of silly of me because that's the right height right there, which means I can't put this inside. All right, let's see what I can dig up real quick. Okay, I had another one, so let's try that again, and this time I'll give it a little bit more space. Okay, so here's a new one. I went ahead and also beveled the end, and I sanded off a little molding sprue probably here that was still on there. Had one of those here, took care of that as well. Now will this fit in there? I think it will, but it might need a little encouragement. This is my mark for how high it needs to be. Let's get a hammer real quick. We'll try this little dead blow hammer first. If not, I've got a bigger persuader. If I turn this, I mean, none of these are perfectly round, so it's almost like I need to put one of these on the bottom as well, and then it'll slide in, but this is probably a bad idea, but well, that fits fine. Okay, I'm gonna take my sander and see if I can't shave this down a little bit. Looks like maybe it's a little bit smaller diameter here than it is here, because it fits in fine this way, but only that far. So let's thin this out a little bit. Okay, I think with a little bit of persuasion this will work now. There we go. I made these marks all the way around so I can make sure everything's reasonably level. Okay. The big persuader was not necessary. This is going to take a little smoothing out as well, I think. It's a little bigger than 2 inches, but okay. So that is pretty much the 3 tubes. So I think it's probably a pretty good time to stop, and that'll give me a little bit of time to figure out some options on what to do for these pieces in here. This seems much tighter than I was expecting, but we'll take care of that next time. So I'm really glad that you were able to kind of watch me do this. It's a little bit different for me. Usually I just put on my headphones and go to work. I hope you're enjoying this, and if so, why don't you go ahead and like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Also, if you have any questions or want to complain about this format, go ahead and do so in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer any questions you have. So hopefully you'll have enjoyed this a little bit, and I'll see you next time.